Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming out tonight to our City Council meeting. And as always, we welcome all of you. We welcome your comments. Part of our job is to hear how you feel about things, what your opinions are on the issues that we have facing us. And of course, there are certain rules that we'd like to be able to always reiterate and remind everyone about. First of all, the good and welfare portion of the meeting is at the end of the City Council meeting, and part of the rules is that you sign up for good and welfare before the end of the City Council meeting. So you can actually sign up for that right now. The other thing that's very important to keep in mind is that when you come up to give your opinion or comment or ask questions, there's a 3-minute limit, and that's a very important part of how we run this office, this meeting, because it allows for everyone to have the opportunity to be able to speak. And then finally, the last thing that I'd like to remind everybody about is decorum. Decorum is, in our opinion, one of the most important parts of this function. It means that we have respect for one another. We may not agree with one another, but we respect their right to express themselves. And that's one of the things that I hold very dear to this function of the City Council. And as you know, City Council represents what happens in Long Beach, what happens with sanitation, what happens with fire protection, what happens with police protection, what happens with infrastructure. All of these things take place right here in City Council. We vote on issues, and in some cases we look at changing regulations, changing laws, and again, some may agree, some may not agree. It's important to be able to respect one another during this entire process. And again, we want to welcome, I see the Girl Scouts are here, and every time I think of Girl Scouts, I think of buying Girl Scout cookies, and it's become part of my life for a good invite them. But again, we want to welcome everybody. And with that, folks, I am going to turn the meeting on to receive. And of course, yes, I think that we can just get us going here. Roll call.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, March 21st, 2017 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Diamond? Here. Councilmember Moore? Here. Vice President Eramo? President Torres?
Here.
Let the record indicate that Councilmember Mandel is absent this evening. And let the record indicate the presence of the City Manager Jack Schnirman and Corporation Counsel Rich Perry. We'll have now
Okay, I'm going to ask the Girl Scouts to stand up and to the leaders of tonight's pledge of allegiance. I have to say that one of the things that I look forward to is, of course, spring. And as you know, we are beginning our spring season now. And it's just very unusual that, of course, that we're going to have cold weather tomorrow, so we need to prepare for that. I find it amazing. But what's really beautiful is that we can enjoy the sunset here at this hour that at one time we couldn't because it was dark. So we welcome this time of the year. And with that, I'll turn it over to our city manager for our update.
Okay, taking a look at our public works update for the week. Here's what's in the works. The sanitation pickup schedules return to normal, of course. Sewer maintenance crews will be in the east end doing cuts and caps for house raising. In the west end, performing routine maintenance by jet cleaning sewer lines. Water distribution crews will be working on water service cuts and restorations in the western sections of the city. Additionally, contractors will be visiting the water quality control plant to respond to RFPs for cleaning digesters and other needed repairs, while the engineering staff is progressing with several road improvement projects in design stage, including Hudson from Grand to Mandel, Pacific from Walnut to Broadway, Hardy from Walnut to Broadway, and Edwards from Park to Beach. The Army Corps of Engineers Dune project has now begun work in Long Beach. The city's management team and City Council have worked closely with Senator Kaminsky, Senator Mandel, Legislative Board, and Senator Schooner's office to ensure that the inconvenience Long Beach residents face this summer will be minimized while also allowing the project to proceed in a timely manner with measures put in place to protect the city from future storms. Throughout this process, our administration and City Council will continue to stand up for Long Beach. The countdown is on. We're just about a month away from the city's carry-out bag ordinance taking effect on Earth Day, April 22nd. The city will be holding an Earth Day event in Kennedy Plaza on April 22nd from 10 to 2, which will include reusable expenditures. For more information, sign up for bag giveaways leading up to Earth Day. You can visit longbeachny.com/bag. One page can also be found in the front of the room. Tomorrow is World Water Day, an international day to raise awareness for water protection and conservation. Take this time to remind everyone how important it is to protect and conserve the city's sole water source, the Lloyd Aquifer. Climate change and sea level rise, coupled with possible sea pumping, allowing the saltwater interface to intrude into the Lloyd Aquifer's fresh water. Those of water knowledge is regularly tested according to state and county requirements approved to be extremely high quality drinking water. We're acutely aware of the saltwater intrusion issues we potentially face going forward. Please see one pages in the front of the room to see what we're doing to protect our drinking water for years to come and what you can do to play your part. As everyone knows, March is Women's History Month, and the city of Long Beach is proud to introduce women-owned businesses in our local video series. This week's video, premiering Wednesday morning, will shine the spotlight on Joyce Coletti, who's recently named the top-selling real estate agent for Douglas Elliman on Long Island. Next week's video focuses on Codfish Cowboy in West End. The clips will be available on the city's website and Facebook page. And finally, the city's spring program registration is underway at the Long Beach Rec Center. Please visit longbeachny.gov/rec for a complete list of all of our recreation programs.
Thank you, City Manager, Mr. Schnirman. And with that, we're going to now begin with our first item, and I'll turn the meeting over to Ms. Gould. That's right. And you let her down. That's right. Okay, what we'd like to do first, before we begin reviewing the items, is that we would like the Girl Scouts to do their presentation first. We do realize that this is a school night, and we want to be able to get you to do your presentation before it gets any later tonight. So please, let's come forward and again, welcoming all of you for being here tonight, and we look forward to your presentation. Okay.
We are walking trip 2260, and we are here reviewing and talking about composting. We are working on our grant award, and we are calling our project OCC, which stands for Operation Community Composting. Composting can help reduce the amount of trash we throw out every day. We learned that the average American family throws out 10 pounds of garbage a day. Instead of throwing out food scraps such as fruit and vegetables, you can compost them. Composting is better for the environment. We also learned that composting is the best way that you can recycle. Instead of putting more garbage, composting creates rich soil that we can use for our garden. What can be composted? Compost vegetable scraps, fruit scraps, leaves, dead flowers, tea bags, eggshells, coffee grounds, paper towels, cardboard, and shredded paper can all easily decompose. We've learned that there are some things that you cannot compost because they can become smelly and attract unwanted animals. Some examples of things you shouldn't compost are cooked vegetables, meat scraps, and dirt piles. If you're interested in composting, it is easy to do at home. Some people prefer composting bins to be set up outside rather than inside. If you think that composting will be too difficult to manage at home, then we have a solution for you. Our Girl Scout troop will gladly collect your food scraps at the farmer's market beginning on Thursday, April 22nd, 2017. We would also like to see community compost bins set up around our beach. Ideally, garbage bins that have 3 options: one for trash, one for recycling, and one for composting. We hope to help reduce the amount of trash that Long Beach collects, and we want to help our local environment. Thank you for your time. We hope that you will participate in the OCC, Operation Community Compost.
Well, thank you. Girls, you make us so proud. We want to take a picture for the newspaper, so we're going to come down. One of the wonderful things about these kind of presentations done by children is that it helps to build civic participation. And this is something we love in Long Beach. We love to hear from the public. We love to hear from each one of you. And again, we want to thank this wonderful organization in such an important month, Women's really History and Contribution Month, which is such an important part of all our lives. And again, we want to thank these ladies. And with that, we will begin our city council meeting this morning.
First item is public hearing. Resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements regarding premises 1013 West Beech Street, Street 4, Long Beach, New York, regarding insurance cases.
Yeah, with that, we are holding the hearing, and thank you for being here, the owner of the property.
I'm actually the tenant.
Okay, very good. You're representing
I'm the tenant itself. I'm moving from the block.
That's right.
That's 1013.
Okay. We just have a series of questions you probably are very familiar with already. Do you expect any on-street parking or any off-street deliveries of any kind?
First of all, agency, we get his package, yes, and so we can get that.
And how many employees do you have?
Just me and my secretary.
Okay, very good. And the hours of operation?
9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay, and the very last question that we ask all new businesses, right, you're not new, you just move from one place to another. If you're interested in having a bicycle rack placed in front of your establishment,
Interested in having it?
yeah, and once installed.
It wouldn't bother me.
Okay, so we'll note that too, and we'll be contacting you about that. So we urge you to stay with us until the end of the meeting. We're going to have to vote on this entire permit, and this way you'll know exactly what's going on.
I don't say what here, what's I will go down.
You'll get a letter from us.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, very good. Thank you again. Okay, with that, I will close the hearing.
Next item is public hearing for the purpose of providing all persons and representatives of organizations with significant social, economic, and environmental interests and adequate opportunity to publicly present their views on and proposed activities of the city's community development program for the 2017-2018 auditor year.
Okay, and with that, I also open up the hearing on that. Item number 2, the community development portion here, and we have, I think we have a little follow-up from our city manager. Yes.
Okay, the public hearing gives citizens the opportunity to provide input, make their comments known regarding what type of eligible activities the city of Long Beach should apply for in the 43rd year application. Eligible activities include but are not limited to home ownership assistance and housing rehabilitation programs, public facility and public improvement projects, public service programs, economic development and business assistance. Eligible activities must meet one or more of the following national objectives listed in federal statutes as follows: provide benefits to low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight, provide funding for projects that have a particular urgency because existing conditions pose a serious and immediate threat to the health or welfare of the community. I'm going to call our Director of Community Development to give us an overview of process and then follow.
Okay. Welcome, Ms. James. Good to see you.
Okay, so this is the application for the 43rd year for the CDBG funding. Really tonight we'd just like to hear directly from the residents about what their priorities are regarding what proposed activities we should seek under this funding. The application is due on April 3rd, so this allows us to submit that application to the county. The funds are received directly from HUD, and funding was appropriated back in April of 2016 for this year. So hopefully we get the funding that was proposed back then. For us, the focus is really this year on under North Park community, looking at some economic development, some microloans. We're looking to put forth for public facilities and infrastructure, looking at some tree planting and beautification efforts, Also looking to seek funding for community policing as well, home ownership funding, and continue the funding for our senior programs, our youth programs, and also looking at non-residential historic preservation, in particular the Moke Center and Christian Lake Baptist Church. So, do you guys have any questions?
Okay, well, thank you so much for that presentation. Do we have any comments from the council on this presentation from Ms. James? Do we have any comments from the public? Okay, so we'll start with this side, the person to the aisle first, and then the second person. Okay? Okay, I didn't see you back there. Welcome, Ms. Velasquez. Good to see you.
Hi, Mary Lawson. I don't know if I'm going to ask you would be in this, otherwise I'll ask later again. But there are several groups that would like to do community gardens, and we do have the area in the canals. We have along Neptune Boulevard and along Chester. We have those areas, and people were interested in making community gardens. I don't know who we could apply for this. I don't even care if we can get it from this, but we have lots of people interested in doing that. So I don't know if you want to address this here or where you want to address it, but we would like permission to do these community gardens.
Yeah, that's certainly a good question.
We have 3 areas on Chester that we could, instead of it just being land just sitting there. It could make nice community gardens, and people would tend to it. They would take time. So
I think that that's a magnificent idea. I think that also we need to look at what regulations might be involved in it. I'm not too sure. Mr. Darius is here to be able to answer any of that, but because it's so new, the chairman can.
I would allow that sheriff to speak to the that with regards to the rebuilding here. I think the answer is going to be something whether it's
We are looking to do some community gardens throughout the city as part of this application. I do have to take a look at the areas to see if it's part of the eligible areas for CDBG funding. If it is, definitely something we'll put forth in the application. If not, I will let you know.
absolutely.
Sharon, just a point of clarification while you're talking. Can you explain what eligible areas are?
So there's areas throughout Long Beach that are considered eligible areas that are low to moderate income areas, and those are prescribed by HUD. So that's where we can put forth projects and activities throughout the state. So it's not every single area within Long Beach, but there are certain areas that are low to moderate income according to HUD standards, and that's where we can focus this.
Thank you, Ms. Velasquez. Very good question. And I saw that there was another hand over here. Yes.
I would just add, just as a statement of clarification, what Ms. James is getting at is that there's areas specifically for town, but if we want to do community gardens in general, that's certainly a great thing to do. Just while we're on the point there, I think it's important to mention while we're going through this hearing, which is an annual hearing, that this funding, which obviously is important to our community, is slated in the first draft of the federal budget before by the president to be cut in its entirety. Obviously, that's something that was being definitely.
Well, we just need your name for the record.
Ina Fiore.
Okay.
How are you? 2 questions. When you talked about, just to go back to the area of 45 community gardens, I recently was contacted about writing a letter of recommendation for grants for tree planting. Is that part of the same project? Or is that something that's completely separate? I was contacted very last minute to write it.
I'm not sure what you're contacting about.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this is for the annual community block development grant money that goes over the city that has certain requirements and commented that Sharon just sort of let out.
What when I was approached for the West Home neighborhood was for a project that was like the 500, 600 block of park, and then a section of West Hudson or tree planting or tree?
So trees aren't often eligible under the grant. I would actually just speak to Sheriff privately and see if that, we have to,
I just wasn't sure if it was part of the same thing.
yeah,
So
if you look at
it's-
that, what's confusing is you have to look at a map of the city and figure out if the particular part of the city that you're looking at, fits the federal health requirements. And if it does, then it's potentially eligible. If it doesn't, then it doesn't mean that there can't ultimately be, some other way to go about that.
Okay.
By the way, again, all of that is assuming that we actually have a grant program this year from the federal government.
Okay. So this proposal that we're making is strictly for high areas or if that's the citywide. So is any part of this program going to encompass the subject near and dear to my heart is the recreation department? Are we bringing anything added to the facilities to address or programs to address the recreation department?
I'll let Chair speak to the office.
So that area is eligible now, and we have in the past funding the recreation department has received, so that's on the document.
Do you know what kind of program?
It's mostly for public infrastructure, so you can only allocate 50% of funding.
Maybe you should get on the mic so they can all.
So in regards to programming, only 50% of the program is eligible for public service programming, which historically over the past few years, we've only received about $402,000 each year. So that equates to about $60,000 available for that type of programming. So we do it pretty for it. It's all like it's acceptable. No, do you have any in mind that you would like us to apply for?
I'll go back to the pool.
Okay.
One is an example that April is nationally through the USMS swimming is called Go On to Swim. It's a program geared towards adults that are have fear of water and we would like to participate in a program which would teach them to swim in a community that is on the water, surrounded by water. We felt it would be something very important. There are people that have the ability to show in our recreation department and also outside of it, could do such training, such conference.
That's a great suggestion. Yes. Historically, we've looked at public infrastructure. So this is something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the hearing can be a little bit confusing each year. We do it, so I just want to make sure everyone understands the purpose of the hearing is for the public to give the city recommendations as to what to apply for. We haven't applied yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'd love to hear from
We want to hear from you.
as many people as possible tonight about what they'd like to see.
Very good. Thank you again, Ms. Fury. I think those were very good questions. Are there any more comments from the public? I think I see a hand. Yes, please come forward. Oh, Ms. Blanchett. Welcome. Could you state your name up for the record?
Sure, Allison Blanchett. I'm not sure if anybody brought this up or kind of just jumping into the conversation. I'm wondering if, I know in other states that these funds have been used for bicycle infrastructure, for bike paths, for bike programs, pedestrian stuff as well. And I'm wondering if this is something that we could look into. Our Savers to School grants kind of technically expired, but we've been stretching it and really stretching it thin, and it's going to be done soon. And I know that there are certain areas, like geography-wise, that this is for. So I'm just wondering if we can kind of incorporate a little bit of what we've done with some of our Savers to School stuff, mix in a little like what the Girl Scouts presented last week, how they wanted to do, they kind of did a pilot program, or I should say we did a pilot program. If we could maybe kind of take like a bike club type of thing, incorporate more mechanics so that we're teaching job skills, incorporate that with the Savers to School, and I know that some Savers to School programs in other areas have been covered under this grant, and do some kind of like education and health, not just recreation and leisure, because this is, you could really get some great job skills learning mechanics. So I would really love to see some of that, and I know that we're seriously lacking on certain parts of Long Beach, safe, accessible routes for children and adults and seniors, all ages. So incorporating some of that, and I would highly recommend you reach out to either myself, along the Island Streets, or, the people who technically oversee the Safe Routes to School program, which would be Cindy Brown. Maybe we could all, even if this is of any interest in eligibility, like if that's cool, we would be happy to maybe put something together that incorporates all of these things, because we've never done this in Long Beach. This is like seriously needed. That's my suggestion.
Ms. Blanchett, you've always been a champion in the bicycle wellness. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It is a very good suggestion. I'm sure we're going to take that to Are there any other comments on item number 2? Yeah, Ms. Mandel and then Ms. Anissa. Mr. Mandel. Always good to see you.
Good evening, John Mandel. I was just wondering if perhaps we could get just some examples of what's been in this program in previous years. I know you were looking for input, but just perhaps if we could find out what's on the city's wish list for this application year. Also, some of the stuff that I was going to address has already been talked about, but what about in alignment with the new comprehensive plan, creating an urban enterprise zone along the bayfront, along the old industrial area?
Mandel, those are very interesting questions, and I'm not sure if we have anyone here ready to be able to comment specifically on that. I'm not sure, I don't think we do. But I will have to get back to you on those questions. Sherry, can you think? Okay, that's okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mandel.
So some of the projects that have been funded in the past are our senior programs at Magnolia. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to expand to the MLK Community Center and offer senior programs there. We provide lunch to our seniors on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've also been able to provide sub-recipient grants for youth programs to various organizations such as MLK Inc., Latino Civics, Long Beach Aware, and Reach as well. I also have some applications if anyone's interested in applying. The deadline is passed, but we've extended it to the end of this week, so I do have those available. We've also funded summer youth employment programs with the Housing Authority and Latino Civics and City Hall. We've done art programming through our Art Council, benefiting seniors and low-income youth. We've had code enforcement activities, and we've also funded ADA accessible paratransit vehicles as well for the non-federal share. We've done residential rehab, upgrades to our playgrounds, improvements at various community centers. We've updated our bathrooms here to make them ADA accessible. We've also purchased movie mats for the beach, and beautification efforts and tree planting as well. So those are some of the items that have been funded. And as I stated before, the city's wish list, really goes around economic development. We're looking at funding some microloans for small businesses, tree planting, beautification, community gardens, home ownership funding, continuous funding for our seniors and our youth, and community policing and non-historic preservation of the MLK.
James, thank you so much for bringing that list with you, because I wouldn't have thought about that. And I think that the second half of the question was what relationship that has to the plans for the future, and if that at all has any impact on that. By the way, I thought they were excellent questions.
Absolutely. I think that's great to bring back. So we definitely this year are looking to focus on marrying the two, the plan and the community development efforts. We're looking to fund a lot of what we put forth in the plan through home ownership funding, through this non-historic preservation of the buildings, through microloans. So we are looking to vary with the items that are in the comprehensive plan with the funding that we're seeking this year.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Gabriel. Are there any other comments? Ms. Eagleton, and then we'll do Mr. Welcome, Ms. Eagleton. It's good to see you.
Hi, Fred Eagleton. Considering the real possibility, the way I see it anyway, that we may not get funding this year, is there any way that the city could look into any kind of contingency funding? Because all these ideas are great, there's so many things that are really important that people have brought forth. So I'm hoping that maybe they could consider trying to find some money somewhere to build our own CDBG, development fund, just in case that really doesn't happen. So it's really all I want to say.
That's a tough question. And, I don't know if we can answer it right now.
I would add that I think the most important thing that we can all do is advocate. And advocate that this funding is not cut, and it's absolutely critical that we communicate that not only to our federal representatives, I guess to our state representatives as well. The state has been a tremendous champion of this funding. Incidentally, I would remind everybody that after Superstorm Sandy, all of the disaster recovery funding came through this program. So it's been absolutely critical to Long Beach in so many ways. The idea of it being not just cut but eliminated is unconscionable.
Don't want to stretch this out, but what Jack said is absolutely very, very important and true. The best thing we can do right now is advocate for this funding. It runs all of our senior programs here. We are seeking other avenues, just as a caution, because we know that this funding could possibly be totally eliminated. So we are looking to advocate. So you can write letters to your congressional person and to Nassau County and continue to advocate that we receive this funding, because it does not only impact our youth, our seniors, but also, as Jack pointed out, our disaster recovery efforts here as well.
Absolutely. Do you want to make a comment? Okay, Ms. Duval? Welcome, Ms. Duval. It's good to see you.
Amy Duval. I don't know if people realize that JASA is closing in town, and some of the programs are being taken over by other organizations, but there are some, and I don't know what they are, that may not be.
Yes.
So I think that would be something to be looking into, because the seniors in Long Beach really depend on JASA.
That's a very sad thing. Very sad to hear that. I think a lot of people didn't know that the JASA program is coming to a close. And just a very sad fact that so many seniors that receive services and food really is a meal with JASA. And that's coming to a close. It's very saddening to hear that. Are there any other comments from the public on this item regarding the redevelopment money? Okay, well, with that, I'm going to close the hearing and we'll move on to our item number 3. Thank you, everyone, for your comments.
We'll move on to the calendar. Item number 1 is a resolution granting waiver of on-street parking requirements on premises 1013 West Beech Street, Street 4, Long Beach, New York, regarding the insurance and agency office. A public hearing has been held on this item already. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing the filing of an application to the County of Nassau for the purpose of undertaking a community development program under Type 1 of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, and Title 6 of the National Housing Act of 1990 as amended, parentheses, in the city's community development program for 2017-2018 43rd year. Public hearing has been held on this item already. Item number 3.
Go ahead, it's just a question.
Item number 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase an ambulance for the city fire department.
Hey, this is new ambulance will be primary 24-hour paramedic ambulance. The fire department will be running a 14-year-old ambulance in use. Funding is available in the capital improvement plan. I know that our fire commissioners here will have to just give us a very quick overview of all the program.
Welcome, Commissioner Timmons. Good to see you.
Good evening, and thank you. So as the city manager said, we are going to, last year we bought a new ambulance. We got rid of one of our 2003 ambulances. This year now, tonight, we're going to hopefully buy a new ambulance that is going to be assigned to our paramedics to operate the ambulance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This ambulance is coming fully equipped, and pretty much when it comes in, other than putting some of the supplies service almost immediately. It will become the primary ambulance. The ambulance we're replacing, and I actually have pictures of it, because I saw some questions on Facebook, obviously it's on Facebook. It must be true that where is this 14-year-old ambulance that survived Sandy? It's parked right outside this building, and I brought pictures of it with me just in case anybody wanted to see it. But that's the vehicle we're replacing. It did survive Sandy, as most of our vehicles did. We had insurance and they were repaired, but obviously that still takes a toll on them. Like I said, the vehicle is 14 years old. Ambulance service bringing revenue to the city of Long Beach at approximately $1 million a year. Buying a new ambulance for the paramedics that run primarily all the calls is a cost of doing business. They have to spend money to make money, and that's exactly what this is. We need dependable vehicles to respond to help our residents and get them to the hospital when needed.
It's very interesting. I have never asked this question before, and I'm always very curious. In the case of an emergency on the beach, is this vehicle able to go on the same?
No, it is not. This vehicle is equipped with four-wheel drive, that is for snow. The vehicles are too heavy, our sand is too soft. Working in conjunction with our lifeguards, our police department, and our fire and water rescue, we have vehicles that will remove the patient from the beach and bring him to the street end where the ambulance will be.
I see, so there's a whole procedure for that.
Yes.
Bringing the individual to the ambulance off of the beach.
That is
I
correct.
see. Very, very important. It's good to know, and it's good for the public to know that too. Are there any comments? Yes, Mr. Eramo.
Will this ambulance, the one that's being replaced, go down for the volunteers to use, and then will we be scrapping?
The ambulance that the paramedics are using now will be bumped down.
Right.
And then the ambulance behind that will be bumped down one, and the vehicle that they prostitute so that one will be sold at auction.
Any comments from the council members? Any comments from the public? Yes, Ms. Hutchins, welcome. Ms. Hutchins, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
I think I missed you at the Humphrey Bowls this year. I was there. Yes, and I looked around for you. I guess I must have arrived too early. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm in Hessian, 516 West Beach. I'm guessing that the need for an ambulance, aside from replacing one, is because we don't have a hospital and we're using ambulances more often now. And since that's the case, and since South Nassau took all of our FEMA money, shouldn't South Nassau pay for this ambulance instead of our own? Should we get FEMA money since it's health and that kind of thing? Can we ask FEMA or South Nassau?
It would be terrific if FEMA would buy us a new ambulance, but it doesn't sound like our ambulance is down
But South Nassau has all that, those millions that they took, and they're rebuilding their hospital, which was not damaged during the storm. They're adding wings and things to their hospital. Can we get some of that to pay for this ambulance? It's a very tiny drop in the bucket, really.
That would be wonderful.
Why can't they do it? I don't understand why.
They do actually provide us a free ambulance, as you may know.
Oh, they should provide it. Thank you.
Are there any comments on this item number 3, the ambulance, new ambulance that we're purchasing? Okay, and again, we want to thank Commissioner Kemmons for being here tonight for that update and explanation on this new ambulance, which is very much needed on our barrier island. And we'll move on to our next item.
The next item is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for furnishing and planting of various trees in the city and to transfer funds.
Tree funding is now available for the use of a community development block grant, which we just posted earlier, for the planting of 18 regal Prince oak trees to replace trees that have died along JJM Boulevard. I would just mention, by the way, by way of background, that the trees that did not survive on J.J. Evans Boulevard were not part of the city's original tree planting project. In fact, they were donated by, I believe, TD Bank and part of a Sustainable Long Island project.
Any comments from the council? How about comments from the public? Do we have any comments on the 18 trees to be planted in the North Park area? Starting very, very shortly. Okay, so thank you. And I'll ask Mr. Lee to go on to our next item.
Item number 5 is a resolution to schedule the second regular council meeting on Wednesday, April 19, 2017.
Hey, due to the holiday, council, the members of the city council desire to schedule a set meeting for Wednesday, April 19th.
Okay, any comments from the council regarding this change of date for our next city council meeting? Any comments from the public on this change of date for the city council meeting due to a religious holiday that's coming up? Okay, with that, I'll turn our meeting over back to Ms. Doolin. Okay.
Item number 1, resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements regarding premise 1013 West Beech Street, Street 4, Long Beach, New York, regarding the insurance agency. Who will make a motion? I'm sorry. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I'll introduce that.
Who will second? Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
President Torres?
Yes, and welcome, person left, but they were granted the permit to move their business from one point of law to another. Again, thank you.
Resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the County of Nassau for the purpose of undertaking a community development program under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, and Title II of the National Affordable Housing Act of 1990 as amended, for inclusion in the city's community development program 2017-2018-47. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item? Who will second? Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
This program is vital to low and moderate income communities, and I just want to thank Sergeant for your leadership. I hope yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
And President Torres?
I just also want to reiterate what Ms. Councilwoman Moore mentioned. It is vital to our community. Let's stand up and really protest the cuts coming from the federal government. These are vital programs to this community, and we need to continue. My vote is yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase the ambulance to the city's fire department. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item? Who will second?
I'll second that. I'm sorry.
On the vote, Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
President Torres?
Yes.
Item number 4, a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for furnishing and planting of various trees in the city and the transfer funds. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item? Second? On the vote, Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
President Torres?
Yes.
Item number 5 is a resolution to schedule the second regular council meeting of Wednesday, April 19, 2017. Who will introduce and move the adoption of this item? Who will second? On the vote, Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
President Torres?
Yes.
Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Who will second? I'll second. On the vote, Councilmember Diamond? Yes. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Vice President Eramo?
Yes.
President Torres?
Yes. And that brings to an end our city council meeting and begins our portion of the good welfare that we host at every meetings. And again, just as a reminder that there is a 3-minute limit on the duration of your question or comment in order to allow for all folks to be able to share and let us know what's on their mind. The other thing too is that again, we need for everyone to provide each other the utmost respect during this period in our meeting. Our first name person here is Mandel. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. It's just that I got the letters. It's my fault. Probably got the glasses. Yes.
No, everybody mispronounces my name. Mylon Studart from 25 West Broadway, Grade 6. Since I'd first like to start by thanking you for allowing me to speak to you today, and also say that ever since I moved here 4 years ago, the city every year has just been incrementally getting better and better, and I hope that it continues. And another thing that can improve is the traffic lights here, right on Edwards and National, right near the train. They don't allow enough time for people to cross the street. And I only was able to witness that when I started my internships in the city. And even though as a driver, I really appreciate the traffic lights Kaizen, it's great. I'm afraid that there are a lot of people that come here to Long Beach, especially in the summer, and a lot of people with strollers and babies, maybe people in wheelchairs, and senior citizens who, when crossing the street, they're not going to make it. I'm 5'1" and a healthy young woman, and I can't make crossing the entire street on time. And yes, there's a median, but the median is for parking. Just last week, when I was picking up my book at the library, I almost got run over by another driver going into the median while I was crossing the median. And I know that people gathering at the median, if they won't be able to cross the street, they gather there, and then, it's not good for traffic, and it's not good for the pedestrians. I just really hope that we could at least add 10 seconds could make a world of difference to the pedestrians crossing. And I don't think it would make that big of a difference to the drivers. I really hope you can consider this maybe in another item agenda. It's just that, for me, I lost my shoe a couple of times trying to run. And again, I'm a young and healthy woman. If I'm going through this, I can't imagine what the seniors and the disabled and the people with the babies are going through. So I really hope we can just add that if people want to get where they're going to go, to the beach or to the train, and that would really help. It's the most pedestrian traffic area that you have here.
Thank you, Mr. That's certainly very important question.
I would just mention, first of all, thank you for raising that issue. It's an issue that's actually very frustrating, and a lot of work has been undertaken thus far. First thing I would say is it used to be the worst up until a few years ago. It was a light retiming which improved it, and the light retiming took years of advocacy to make happen. The traffic lights in the city are controlled by Nassau County, and after a lot of advocacy, they retime. However, you're exactly right. There's still no way that a reasonable person, unless you are like right there, right when the light starts, you're not going to make it in one light cycle across both lanes. So coming down the pipe to address that, we have several projects. Park Avenue Phase 1 and Phase 2 are grant projects that we won from the state that are moving through the process. In order to do that, there's going to be pump outs there eventually. The county has been telling us that they plan for 2018 a project to add additional light timing infrastructure as well. But no, on that particular corner that you're talking about on Edwards, it's such a challenge in the summer that when crowds are getting off the train, we actually have special officers there in order to help folks cross. There's literally several thousand crossing at a time, and it is obviously a very dangerous situation. So, long story short, it's something that's very much on our radar screen. We're ready to bring it up, and it's something we're very much working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Yes. I just want to also reiterate that even not just seniors and disabled, I have tremendous trouble crossing with my grandchildren, and who run the middle, with little children. And you're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that up to us and for going on the record. Okay, our next person that we have is Mr. Nick Fabrizio. Welcome, Mr. Fabrizio. It's good to see you.
Good evening, folks. It's just been 2 weeks since we're here. And again, commenting on the near collapse of 815 West Park. First, I want to thank everybody for your support and support. Much appreciated and accelerating the process of removing it. Having Having said that, I want to know if the city has a timeline that we're requiring the owner to completely remove the foundation. And then following removing the foundation, what are the next steps for that property?
Those are very good questions, Mr. Fabrizio. I'm not sure if our buildings commissioner can answer any of these questions, but we're going to ask, and I see that the commissioner is here, and certainly we're so very grateful that no one was hurt, and we're so sorry that we have to take the action we did.
All right, as I've informed you previously, as we are with the project, that the entire structure, other than the foundation, has been removed. The owner has fired his original engineer, probably not a bad engineer, but and has hired a new architect, a gentleman who is a local architect. So he has just been retained, and he is working on revising plans, assessing the entire situation, and coming back to us. We have not, he asked us to give him a little time to get there, look at it, go over the original plans, go over the zoning variance, get everything in order, and then come in and have a meeting and see how they are going to proceed. So, as it is safe at this time, we allowed him that time that he needs to get things in order.
Commissioner, that's such good news that we have a new engineer, a new architect that's magnificent, and a local one that really knows Long Beach. Yeah, it's good.
With that in mind, assuming that you go down that road, there will be an opportunity for another variance here, correct?
Most likely, if it's the height requirement, I'm sure that they have to apply. Commissioner?
I have to refer to legal counsel on that. I know the property did receive a variance that goes with the land.
Yes.
If the submitted plans meet that variance, I'm not sure. We have to speak to our zoning counsel on that. But there, presently is a valid zoning variance from the zoning board on that property. So depending on what changes are made to the plans, we'll probably make that determination if it needs to go back to the zoning board or not. Without having those in front of me, I couldn't even be able to make a guess.
Okay, fair enough. And thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much. Okay, and Mr. Fabrizio, thank you again. Thank you so much. And I think we have Marie Fabrizio here, and man, it's good to see you again. And we're glad that this ordeal is being brought to a close. Take your time, man. Welcome, Ms. Fabrizio.
All right. I just want to tell you, I don't like anyone looking at house before we look the one there. Actually, it was 9 inches of the eaves are on my property, but they were the eaves. But now this thing went all the way out 99 feet. That was water there when I moved to Long Beach. And there's still water underneath there. I have pictures of my son playing there. With water from there to Pennsylvania Avenue. If anybody goes down Pennsylvania Avenue, which we just had a flood, Anyway, that's where the bulk is. So when they fill that in, there's all this water under there. There was one bulkhead loose when they first filled that. My other neighbors, a beautiful big house, to take care of our property. They put the one bulkhead in. And that time I put it for to take care of my property and to be safe. They put a Band-Aid on the Grand Canal, because it was out there. It just patched it up. So underneath there is all water, and I believe that water's going all the way out into Clark Avenue, going up to California Street. Because if anybody knows anything, if you've ever got it, there's always a manhole covers. Every couple of weeks they have to come and put a little bit of tar around them, because there's got to be all water. That house cannot be built 99 feet out onto where that water was. I'm sorry. I don't know much about anything. I just like to know. I think I'm trying to figure it out. They did water testing. They could know. Soil testing in the front of the house. So I saw the back and see there's all holes under there. I can show you pictures when I had put my new bulkhead in. After the storm, I was going out. I was about 10 years old.
we had to put in a bulkhead after the storm, which we do. Next door, every time we found another hole, we added, so there was all, like I have a patio out on, over the water. Kids are coming this way onto the ground. I don't see how they could build a house 99 feet, plus it's taking everybody's view of it. The people, everybody easily, you can't see us again. We talked before, what was the first thing you said when you got up here? What beautiful sunsets we had in Long Beach.
Right.
They took that away from me completely. I just can't understand so many buildings. It's like an apartment building.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be for his, to keep his tone mountains for his children to come to Long Beach. He lives in Jamaica Estates. That's not my business, but he told me, so I'm saying. I think it's going to be more than that. I don't think we need any more hotels or anything. Airbnb, that's what I have to understand. And I think something should be looked into it.
Thank you, Ms. Parisi.
Mr. President, should they're going to be the song of the future, and I think we already have about 12 or 14 in Long Beach. I don't think we need them. Airbnb.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parisi. Thank you for being here. What's really important is to note that part of the regulations for the zoning board, when a variance is applied for or applied, they are always going to ask neighbors for their opinion. I've had to, in getting variance for my house, when I just did a list, I had to go to my neighbors, and I had to hear what they had to say. So it's very important that if the new owners or the owners ask for another variance, that you look very carefully at what those regulations, what they're asking to do. Okay, that's very, very important. That's for future reference. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Parisi. Thank you.
And call the person's name, they weren't there, we stayed for another 40 minutes, we left, and all of a sudden, a week and a half later, the foundation's being put up, and we're like, what? How did this happen? What happened? That from one week to this meeting, we weren't notified for a second meeting? I don't understand. Like, we're going to
We're going to look into that. Okay, I'm going to
we
look
need
into
your
that.
help.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
thank you for helping get that monstrosity down.
Okay, thank you. Our next person is Ms. Carlos Grasso. Ms. Grasso, welcome.
Hi, Carl Grasso. I'm 783 West Park. I'm a few doors down
You
from
are, okay.
Torres. And this is what I look at. This was the house. I never in my life can imagine that this was allowed to be up. When I saw it going up, I came to City Hall and I said, I went to the building department. I said, I just have to check. Is something wrong? 'Cause on 815 West Park Avenue, there's something going up and it's huge. And it's like 14 feet wide on a 20-foot wide thing, and it's 90-something feet back on a 100 piece of property, whatever it is. It's can't believe it. So the guy, very nice man, opens the thing. He says, "Oh yeah, it was denied. That was approved. So it's approved." I said, "But can somebody just go look at it?" 2 days later, it started falling down. I mean, I feel bad for Marie. She's lost everything. I mean, her house. I mean, this is her house. She's no light. She's no air. She's no view. She's no sunset. 60 years with her husband, and she's got to do this at 88. It's right there. But it's not only her. It's the four houses next to her, and my house, and everybody who would pass me. This is what we look at. How could this be allowed? Yes, maybe it's the right height, but this big wooden monstrosity I have to look at. Where's my sunset? It's just so there. So, in that meeting, we did get a pamphlet, and it said it was a side yard going up, and then nothing happened. And then a few days later, this thing started going up. So, how is that a public to let us know? We have 20 condos where I live, and we would have all attended if we would have known. And so was maybe nothing happened anyway. And then it went up. I don't know how it's allowed. You have to think of people that live there.
observation of, President Torres, does anyone have any information with respect to this process and how this was allowed to happen for the second time? Is there a way for us to get information out to make sure this doesn't happen to residents? I'm very concerned about hearing about, for whatever reason, like something was bypassed with respect to the process.
Well, it's as a former zoning board member many years ago, one of the things that we did, that's an excellent question by Councilwoman Moore, the process is that there's a hearing, just like we have here, to go over these requests for variances. And it's that the opportunity, and many times when I was on the zoning board, we denied the variances. And in some cases, the city was sued for denying the variance. So these are a very interesting process. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a separate judicial body from the City Council. Even though we look into what they do and we see what they do and make sure that they fill the codes and so on, they are an appeals body. So they are really there to appeal some of the regulations. So again, it's very important that when a variance is applied for and a hearing is scheduled, that people come out to that. Yeah, I realize. And I'm going to look into what happened with that, because I still am very close to the people on the zoning board. But again, we cannot undo a decision they make. I just want you to know that as a separate body, separate judicial body, because that's basically what they are. They are a semi-judicial body, because it's so important that we know, and absolutely important, the process is so important. That's one thing that I was always very careful with, and I believe we need to revisit that today. Okay?
Separate and apart from the process part, because I don't know what happened with the separate meeting and stuff. That doesn't sound right, and I'm hoping we can find out what happened. But I'm just hoping if Commissioner Cummings, can you just, I went to Marie's house and I went out on the deck and I saw the house that's taking all the sunset and everything from everybody. My understanding is that there wasn't a variance to the back of the house. My understanding was the variance was a height variance. It wasn't something like they were able to build all the way back to the water.
Those properties are 145 feet deep, and they're required to have a 20-foot rear yard. But that 20 foot is measured by that 145 feet. So, and it's supposed to have a 10-foot front yard. I believe their variance is for the side yards, possibly lot size, because over the years the city has recognized that a 20-foot lot is not wide enough, and now they've changed the lot size in that zone to 40 feet. But in this case, they only have a 20-foot wide lot. I wasn't at the zoning board hearing that night, but from my understanding is that the original when the case was called, the applicant wasn't there. The applicant did show up to the meeting that night late, and then the meeting was, the case was second called, and they held the hearing on that case. I was not there, but I did inquire what occurred, and that is undoubtedly what occurred.
And the variance was for the side yard?
I don't have it.
You don't know?
Okay. It was definitely the side yard. I don't know for what other.
What's the depth of it?
Like I said, there's a building area section, there's a depth section, but those properties are 145 feet deep. So they're very deep properties, so, which unfortunately allows them to build a long, narrow house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
May I give my 2 cents again, please? Just as a woman.
Yes, go ahead.
They built the pyramids in the desert with no water, and they're still there. Would that pyramid still be standing if they were on the edge of the water the way we are? Think about it. Am I right?
Interesting point, Bill. Thank you.
But now that there's been water all these years and it's been coming up there because no one took care of it.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Certainly an interesting point.
Engineering school on my next.
Ms. Mary Savage.
Just to go back to that community garden, I was talking not just flowers, I was talking like vegetables and stuff also. They do it out in, Beech. They have like community gardens and you can take and, whatever's left over, we have plenty of soup kitchens that could use it. On another note, I would like to thank whoever was in charge of getting that sign changed for the Bagel Cafe. The very next morning after our last meeting, it was changed. I feel much better about that corner. I know there were several other corners, and I asked people to, let you know. I mean, it was changed, and people were very happy about that. So I do want to thank you about that. But I'm not going to give up on the community gardens.
Okay, very good. I think we need to thank our police department that are here for having the change of that sign the next day. And we want to commend our police department for acting very quickly on that. Our Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Harley, here, who's here tonight. And we have Ms. Dina Fiori. Of course, it's Mr. Ryan. Okay. Yes.
Just two questions. Last time we were 2 weeks ago,
yes,
we spoke about the boat launch. I ran out of time. The boat launch on Magnolia Pier closes at about 8 o'clock, I believe. We'd like to find out if there's a way to extend those hours, especially during the summer where we have light later. That's number one. Number two, whether it is daytime or dusk or early evening, it's very, very dark. If you were to have an emergency per se, I think it came up with the fire boat, or if they're going to use that launch, anybody would have a very difficult time if you were having a problem with your boat in the water to actually locate that boat launch in the dark. So it should be, if it's our only one way, our only true docking, aside from South Nassau, whether it's a swimmer or a boater in distress in any way, shape, or form, it should be a beacon on the bay, whether it's open or not, but it is the only place. We use it frequently for transporting people back and forth, picking up people and dropping them back off there. But at night it is extremely dark, and if there is a situation where somebody would need some sort of an emergency, you will not be able to, unless you know the water well enough, you're not able to find it. So I think we should look to try to light that area a little bit more clearly on a lower level. I know there's overhead lights on the bay, along the walkway, but not on the actual platforms that are provided there. And I think it may be to keep people out from maybe kids or whatnot, but I think even though it's roped off, or it's locked up, we should be able to.
I think we actually know a lot of complaints when it's used after dark, to be honest.
I don't doubt it, but if it's not going to be used, it should still be able to be there and visible for somebody in the case of emergency. And if we are going to put a fire over the water, there should be some access to it in the event of an emergency. And you just cannot see it at night. If you're on the water, you can't see it at night. The other question, or the other thing, I know we commented earlier about the Army Corps project. Well, we keep talking about where they're going to kind of start. There is no schedule, and I think it's important that the city, I know there's been calls back and forth. There's been many of us who tried to communicate directly with them, but I think sooner than later a schedule should be posted exactly what each is. We know how long it's going to take each section, but in what direction.
As soon as they have a final schedule, we'll insist that it's posted.
Okay, we have no idea as of this point.
Well, they're still meeting and they're still negotiating that, and as soon as we have word from them, we will begin our process of really notifying the public of exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore.
Eileen Hession?
forward to our Pride weekend. I think it's 3 days in June. But other than that, I haven't heard anything at all about it, and I am wondering about the details. How many people are expected? What's the agenda? What kind of activities are going to be? When is the parade that I have heard is going to be happening? Do we have enough hotel rooms to put these people up, or anything? Is there information? Is there a committee of Long Beach residents working on this? It's only a couple of months away. I would say the
city could be the LGBT network as well as our public safety consultants to address public safety and transportation communications and venues. City council made it a priority to communicate all the details to you. As soon as we have some final details, or things are at least close enough to put forward. And I know the LGBT network promises to provide Long Beach residents with a thorough information packet on their time system as well.
Do you have any idea how many people will be coming? Is there an anticipated number?
I don't think it's possible to, it's one of the challenges with that, it's possible to quite
Well, the reason I asked, I know in Huntington they had tens of thousands. And so some people are hoping to get out of town. So in order to make advance reservations, I think we need to know, this is the end of March, April, May, June. It's very, very soon. So do you anticipate any time on that information?
As soon as we have all the information, perhaps the president.
Okay.
Thank you. Marcus Andrew, good to see you there.
Marcus Jacob here in Long Beach. Good evening. First question, in regard to the storm on Tuesday, if you look at the videos and pictures you've seen from East Pine Street, the street was flooded like crazy. I'm 35 years old. I've lived out here for 30 years. That's been going on longer than I've been alive. Longer than some of our seniors back here probably have even been here. And not blaming you guys both. The administration before you did absolutely nothing about that. Because Pine Street should not be flooded like that by MLK. So my question to you, I'm not going around the table, so I'll start with Council President Torres. What's your plan to make all the residents here and those who couldn't come in from East Pine Street feel safe when there's a storm?
So there's a fully funded project that's about to start happening. The critical infrastructure funding that we got, that's going to put a bulkhead into that whole entire area. That doesn't have an area, that whole area doesn't have a bulkhead. Part of that project is also all the stormwater is going to be double up Roosevelt and down high, so that it will never flood there again. And that's all funded, and I think it's all in design right now at the state level, right? So we're good to go. It's happening. It's happening.
Okay, but it's 2017. This has been going on, like I said, I'm 35. This has been going on longer than I've been alive. Why was this never corrected before? It's not fair to the residents.
We can only speak to what we have done, and what we have done is advocate with the state to get that paid for, and it's happening. And unfortunately, as everybody knows, Governor works a lot slower than we wish. But if you want, call Senator Ty Kaminsky, call Assemblywoman Misty Miller, and maybe we can get the state to move faster on that.
I'll definitely go forward because I know the whole personally. Next thing, in regard to this comprehensive plan, all development is not bad. Not against development when it's good. But when you look at where the majority of this is going to take place, let's keep this real. There's been 4 gentrifications here in Long Beach before. When this takes place, and y'all keep saying we're not going to be doing this domain, we're not going to displace people, we want no money songs. If somebody comes here, they want to invest $1 billion to develop stuff over here, you can't tell me you were going to keep us here that live in this North Park community. You cannot tell me that. Because it hasn't happened before. Where Warbounds was, where South and Shopping was, that was homes. That's gone. Money's gone. That thing all taken away. They put other stuff back there, they have an incinerator, like the trash, that was money. So the city of Long Beach has a history of taking money over protecting the residents who live here and make Long Beach what it is. It's not fair. If you look at the churches, I'm part of Christian Life, I can't speak more about African Christian Life, but as a resident in North Park, Christian Life, this is historical place. Evangel, historical place. New Life, historical place. Then look at the Caucasian, that's all the stories in our community. Not just for the black people, but for anybody who comes. Because all those doors have always been open to anybody. Any color, any religion, regardless. Whether you're rich, poor, whatever. We all feel threatened. Like, all of this is going to be taken away, and we're all going to be pushed out. My grandfather bought his house back here in the 60s or 70s. When he died, they went to my father and my arms. When my father died, it was sent to arms. We was over here now, so we have at least 3 or 4 generations of my family that's been here. I will not allow anybody that's sitting here or anywhere else in this county or state to remove my family from homes, and neither will anybody else in my community that's sitting. We will not allow it. Councilman Eramo, do we have your guarantee that you will fight to make sure none of us are displaced with this upcoming plan?
So my view of the comprehensive plan is in fact to protect the people and everyone where they already live. It's my interpretation of the comprehensive plan is to discuss the brownfields and the areas that are underdeveloped and not used at all. And by doing so, updating our zoning code, updating our code so that it protects everyone everywhere, whether it's the Howe project, protects that neighborhood over there, or protects the folks in North Park, protects the whole city. So yes, I'm sure you're going to get the same answer from everyone up here. That no one wants to see anyone displaced. No one wants to see anyone displaced, and I will fight to prevent that always.
Okay, I will hold you to your words, Council President Torres. What do you say?
I have to assure you that exactly those words are being discussed by us very emphatically behind closed doors because we are concerned, every one of us. As a matter of fact, our recent meeting behind closed doors, this was at the very core of what we discussed, how we can protect the communities such as the North Park and Mr. Eramo was saying, such as other communities throughout the community, throughout Long Beach. But it's really important that you see that we sincerely are not the administration that was here when that gentrification took place. And those, I was here. I was not in politics. I was a teacher, and I remember the promises that were made and the promises that were broken. That's not something that we are going to allow to happen again. I just want to assure you.
Well, I agree with that. But you know, I have to put this out there because I've asked this from right here in regard to the council presidency. You said a change was going to be made before a certain time. Then you go away and everything you told them on here, and I'm saying it right now, and then in Central Park, doing their job, getting it over there, like in September or October, that you was in favor of a certain change. I don't know, sir. But your tone changed. So that right there was a lie off to use the words of Donald Trump, folks, in fact.
Right?
Mr. Chumi, let me answer that question. I don't make by myself the decision as the president in a vacuum. And the presidency is not done in a vacuum. It's done by the entire council. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I cannot say, if the entire council says we want to make someone else a president, fine with me. Believe me. I am not married to this. Believe me. And I would choose anyone on this council. But it has to be a decision of the council, not a lobbying group, not an individual, not a party. It has to be the council that makes that decision. As part of the regulation. Now, when we took the oath of office, we took an oath of office that said that we would adhere to that regulation. And if we violate that, we will be lying to the rest of the Long Beach. So the oath of office says that the council makes that decision. No individual, no lobbying group, no political party. Very important, Mr. Tippett, that you understand that. So if you read that,
I just understand that, but you did lie at the end of the day. So that's Councilwoman Moore, where do you stand in regard to that?
Well, first of all, I think it's very clear, because I've been talking about the plan for some time and my concerns about the plan. While I support the plan itself and the integrity of the plan, I've already said here on several occasions that I'm concerned with respect to the preservation of the community and its character. The strength of any city is the diversity within that city, is the character with respect to the architecture, and that's why overdevelopment is a serious issue that needs to be addressed, because you have to protect the character of any city. That's what makes Long Beach Long Beach. It is the character of the city, but also it's the history within that city. And so if we remove, whether it be the residents that are standing up right now, if we remove that, we're removing the history. That's what makes Long Beach great, is the rich history. And so if you remove people from an area, you're removing the great history that the area has to offer and all that it has to offer. And so it hurts me to see, the flooding that took place last week. But I also know that there were several people who lost their cars last year, and that this is an ongoing issue in the city of Long Beach. It also hurts me to see that when I walk through the community, specifically the Channel Park housing area, that as soon as you walk through the area there, even with all this beautiful gardens, the first thing you do is you detect a distinct odor, a foul smell, and you understand that those are the toxins coming from the waste. So I want to say that I'm aware of all of it, that this is a priority, and that we've talked about this several times, that environmental as well as economic justice has to be a priority. And so it's my hope that we'll continue to work together as a council to make sure that the plan that we have as written will continue to uphold the standards of justice and integrity, so that all of the citizens here can be treated with mutual respect.
Definitely appreciate that. Councilman Eramo, you said something about the zoning, and I heard Council President Torres said with the zoning for that house that he didn't, like you guys had no control over the zoning. That's why that went the way it did with the house that ended up leading on hers. So I know I'm done. I'm closing up now. Now, if you have no control over the zoning, how can you prevent zoning from doing something crazy with this plan?
There's going to be about a 1 year long process to look at our zoning throughout the entire city and to go over where we want to live. What we think is appropriate, what the city thinks is appropriate, and I think that should answer your question.
I'm going to thank you, and again, thank you for your comments and your contribution. I would just add a few things. I think none of which I'm going to say I haven't said multiple times, and looking around the room and seeing a lot of friendly faces. I've said exactly this on multiple occasions, and we've had the same conversation on multiple occasions. Specifically, most recently, December 8th at the Housing Authority, December 12th at the Christian Life Baptist Church, December 15th at the Angel Bible Church. And I thank everybody for coming to those meetings and engaging in a constructive dialogue on that. So at those meetings, I reminded everybody what happens if we do have a plan, and what the consequences for our community are if we don't have a plan, right? Just as a refresher, I made the point then, and I would make it again now, that many of the things that we are all concerned about
are just as likely, in fact, dramatically more likely, if the city doesn't have an updated comprehensive plan, and specifically doesn't have an updated zoning process, because we don't have then the proper tools to protect ourselves. So, a few things. First, just as a reminder of the outreach that we undertook, not only the meetings that I just mentioned, a total of 15 public meetings, including specific to North Park, June of 2015, August and October of 2016, more recently at the Magnolia Senior Center and the library here in 2017. We've done some outreach, and I think we have heard from the community very well, and I think if folks would take the time to be following along the process, we should all realize that there have been edits to the process made by a lot of the folks here in the room. At the suggestion of folks here in the room, I'd like to mention a few of them. Specifically regarding affordable housing, sections 4.7 and 4.8, pages 4 through 30, pages 4 through 33. The city will pursue various avenues to address the housing needs of its diverse population. This means the preservation and maintenance of existing affordable units, as well as an expanded focus on new units. As one example, the city will look to utilize inclusionary zoning as a tool to preserve and provide affordable housing options. I would also remind everybody that at each of those meetings I stood up and spoke, and also reminded folks that including now in the plan language at the community's suggestion and request, rightfully so, ruling out the use of eminent domain by the city in the future, and also protecting the housing authority buildings that were rumored to be in Beech. I say that again this evening, knowing that I'm being recorded, and happily remind everybody of that. Furthermore, regarding the concept of gentrification, which is certainly a very real fear and was brought up. Section 4.7, again, pages 4 through 30. The city will combat gentrification using a variety of tools which are discussed in the comprehensive plan, such as inclusionary zoning, community benefit agreements, encouraging the reintroduction of community-owned businesses along J.J. Evans Boulevard, and through the Empower North Park initiative. I would remind everybody at this time, again, that concepts like gentrification and proposed development that we may not favor are far more likely if we don't have an updated plan as a city and we don't have an updated zoning code as a city. That is the reality that we face. Specific to flooding, which is obviously something I think that is near to all of our hearts, and that has been, obviously subject of great work in the city over the last several years, in addition to the projects that Councilman Eramo mentioned very correctly. Flooding is addressed in the comprehensive plan draft, section 3.2, page 3-2. The impacts of Hurricane Sandy on the city of Long Beach emphasize the severe need to improve rainfall and groundwater management within the city. Some recommendations include landscape-based stormwater infrastructure, stormwater storage vaults, and pervious infiltration zones. So those are some very valid points to be raised, and we have, as a community, have looked over together. We've had those dialogues together. We're obviously continuing to have those dialogues together, and we ought to. And finally, one more I would mention specific to the concept of overdevelopment. Section 4.2, page 4 through 7. Potential overdevelopment concerns will be addressed during the zoning stage. The plan outlines residents' needs and identifies the zoning code update will ensure any redevelopment in the city fits with the context of its community and preserve community character. So there are tools in place within the plan, and there ought to be tools in place in the coming stages to ensure that we are all protected finally. And then I will just close by asking all of us a very simple question, because I've had these conversations with many in the room now going on better part of 5.5 years, which is this. In the comprehensive plan, it highlights several parcels as opportunities that are being not fully used. I would ask anyone in the city if we feel that the parcel that we're sitting on right now is used to the best of its ability, or if it can be used better in the city. I would ask the same question of the Wallbum Shopping Center, which we've all had the discussions going back to the early 1980s, how it was the term urban renewal, right? And how it was an council meeting before, so I'm happy to be on the record there. Those are the concepts that are embedded in the plan. And finally, the area along the bayfront that was formerly an incinerator property, and certainly environmental justice concern there. I have not yet met anyone in our city that feels that that is a parcel that is well utilized to the benefit of the city and its residents. So if there is anyone who feels that all of those things are status quo, are doing great, then we ought to include that in the comprehensive plan process because we haven't heard it up to this point. But if folks feel that it's not right and that it ought to be better, and that together as a community we ought to make it better, then I would urge you to continue forward with the process, and particularly the zoning update, which is the next phase of the process, and we should all be doing that together.
I want to thank you, City Manager, for going on record. I think this is very important for us as a city to go on record with respect to our comments, our concerns, and also our feelings about moving the city forward. And this is all about moving the city forward. I think all of us, I've had the opportunity to go through this meeting, all the December meetings. I've had the opportunity to work with Patty and Emily and Shari. Again, I want to commend the team for taking the extra time to meet with the North Park community. I think that was important in terms of us moving forward as a city to include other voices that have been kept out of the process. But I think also the second part is, while we may, all of us may work together to have these conversations, it's not the same if you are not a part, if you're not at the table, you're not a part of that process. And historically, we have to, again, remember that this community was not a part of the process. That was indeed the main reason for me deciding to move forward in 2015, to give other people voices. Not that the voice wasn't there, but had been silenced for a very long time. And when we look at the issue of flooding, again, this has nothing to do with this present administration or even with the administration before. But we have to recognize when we look at flooding as an issue, when you allow for waters to go into an area, you do not protect the people who are within that area. This is a form of an environmental injustice. And we have to say and call it by name, because when we name something, it allows for us to become empowered to do better. And so this is what the process is about for all of us, that we can grow as a city, that we can talk about things that we haven't had the opportunity to talk about, so that we can get stronger as a city and pull the entire community together. So I think it's very important because for whatever reason, when this was flooding before, this wasn't a priority because unfortunately sometimes the color of people who live in the community, then for whatever reason shifts the priority. Okay, and that's where the environmental racism comes in. And so I'm proud that I can stand here with the city to say that we're moving beyond that we've grown beyond that, but we still have to recognize it and call it by name so that we will never have to do that again. And then secondly, I feel for those residents who are still afraid because regardless of what all of these said up here, we don't have to worry about the fact that one day we're going to just go outside and you're going to see a bike lane, and then the next thing you know, you're going to see different neighbors, and all of our neighbors are going to just disappear, and our neighborhood's going to be completely different. That's what happens with gentrification. Yes, it's true that certain things make it beautiful, but then all of a sudden the community has a sense of loss. And what I'm hearing, just based on the signs I see back there, and based on the voices that I've heard in all these meetings, all 15 meetings, is what's going to happen to us. And so obviously my house is not over there. I guess I'm privileged in that sense that I'm not going to have to wake up one day and say what happened to my community, but I can say in all the neighborhood walks that I've had in the past year, as we're walking through the community, people are calling by name businesses and different ventures that happened and occurred in the community that are all gone because of that wall that was being built. And so that's why I believe some people are here tonight, because of that history. And so I hope that we'll continue to work with the community, continue to work with our fabulous team that's here, economic development and community development and city council coming together so that we can really do something and make a statement on behalf of our city. And lastly, it's all about the process, because we've been talking about zoning, we've been talking a little bit about planning, but if we do not have a
member from that community to be a part of that process, then this is once again just a plan. And so we have to do even more and go beyond to ensure that this is just not a plan, but this is something that we all invest in as a city, that we invest in each other. Thank you.
Moving on, our next person is Matthew Attila. If that person is still here, very good. Matthew, welcome. It's Matt Attila. I just realized. Hi, Matt. It's a weird record. It's all right.
I kind of was laughing. Really quick, kind of my question very fast, but I want to follow up with the Long Island Pride Festival. Just two quick questions. Do we know the cost of it? And if so, how much is the city going to be responsible to pay? And secondly, when you do all the information, how is the city planning on getting that information to the residents? Through their Facebook page, website? Personally, I think maybe a forum should be held so that people will not on social media can get the information. Thank you.
How do we address both issues? The first, the easiest answer I can possibly give you, which is that the city expects to be fully reimbursed for any expenses that we incur. And we are going through an exhaustive process. I'm going to finish what I said. I think I'm going to answer what your follow-up question will be. We're going through quite an exhaustive process at laying out what our potential costs might be. And as you would imagine, that drives the discussion quite a lot. I think that the grant that the LGBT networks obtained from the state is also intended to reimburse the city for those expenses. From our concern, regardless of whether the reimbursement comes from the grant or directly through the event, whatever their event budget is, I'm sure that we are all that concerned about that. We're being reimbursed. And beyond that, I hope that we expect to sell quite a few beach passes that weekend and generate some revenue there.
So you do not.
And I'm sorry, regarding the second question, regarding the means by which we would deliver the communications about the event, I would imagine that we would use all the means that we use, whether it be a newsletter or which is physical, mailing, or our Facebook page, or our website, or email blast, text updates, app push, whatever the case may be.
So, if I hear you correctly, and not please correct me, that the city and the residents will be not responsible for anything. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, they go over budget and police have to go overtime. They're going to fill that cost, right?
I think we are planning for the light.
Is there any guarantee?
Hold on. Let me speak one day. So, keep in mind, we have 5 officers on duty per shift, so we will absolutely have to bring officers in on overtime in order to provide adequate security. So we are costing that out, and we expect full reimbursement for that period.
So there's no guarantee.
We expect full reimbursement for that period.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edlin. Okay, we have Ms. Cheryl Dingle. Is she still here with us? Cheryl, welcome.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you for staying with us this late. We appreciate everyone being here. Just need your name for the record.
It's Cheryl.
Sorry.
I have a prepared statement.
Okay.
Gentrification, the process of renovating and improving a house or a district so that it conforms to middle-class taste. Gentrification, the process of making an activity or person more refined and polite. Or, in other words, the building up of one while tearing down another. I stand today to oppose the city's comprehensive plan, not because of what is said and is displayed, but what is not. The anxiety and panic that reeks in our community when the plan is mentioned is real and constant. Why? Because Number one, it's a normal human reaction when you're told you're being removed from your home, much like being told you'll be laid off in the upcoming months on the shore of relief. And two, there's an increased uncertainty and decreasing power in protecting ourselves from it. So although unspoken, we have read between the lines. We understand that the city's plan is not to benefit Long Beach residents or business owners, but those you seek to attract. I fear you have awakened the sleeping giant and filled him with great resolve. We will not be bullied or forced out of our homes because we are of lower income. We will not support the competition of our local shop owners. Our children's education will not suffer because what happens in the city will happen in our schools. And last but not least, we will not be criminalized because your new residents feel unstable. Thank you.
Thank
Yes. Well, I just want to give a compliment. I think you did the right thing by not allowing liquor, boardwalk and recreation areas. Believe it or not, liquor and recreation do not mix. I know you know on the sports, if you've seen on Facebook, you know on the baseball / sports storefront, yes, I'm very trading those shows and prizes and things. I know all this stuff. And I can tell you, it's only one example. In 1974, on June 1st, the Texas Rangers were playing the Cleveland Indians. I don't know the situation. And they had 10 cents a beer at night, and people got all lifted up and everything. And they started throwing batteries and, bottles and everything. A player had his head, the town had throwing head and everything, the hallways, and the fans, and actually, it's a terrible thing. So I just want to say, when I come to the library, usually we come on Wednesdays. But today it was on a Tuesday. Warren Perlman does a great job. That he's a semi-retired ex-teacher and everything. And at 64, I'm probably the second youngest there. And it's really great. The library is wonderful here. Your concerts here I love because I love my doo-wop music. My always good voice from the 50s, 60s. I was born in 53. And I enjoy coming to the nice people here. I come to your, in the summertime I come to whether it's oldies but goodies, or even a couple times you even have being Vermont, the country and western. You even had what you have this time, the Beatles renditions and everything, and people are wonderful. And so I just want to say I feel safe. I feel a good safety in the atmosphere. Whereas people start getting loaded up, they start bringing weapons, they start throwing bottles and everything. I could go back to my car, parked by the library in Rush Street. A drunk driver could hit me. I could get in my car. A drunk driver could hit me in my car. So I just want to say that you people did the right decision, like I said before, because as you know, I kept school in Bottom Center in 81, 82, 83, and that's where I met, well, she's not here anymore. I met Irene with Joyce Dawkins, and we had problems, okay, but that's all which is a judge, good luck, I'm not carrying whatever, but the point was before it went to change, now it's international cafe light, I'm going to get tonight, and also, diabetic, my favorite pills are my food. I finished with 81, 82, 83. And I'll tell you something, people might know, I was a president, Tony Fernandez, he's still 86 years old, he's still working, because he keeps it going and everything. And we used to have a rule, no liquor in the house, no liquor on the premises, and he did say, get the beer out of here. BBC heard his own party, he passed away. He also, at night, he carried his gun in his pocket, he worked with the sheriff's department to know how to get drug deals. He said, I'm going to start locking up people. So we didn't have it right for silver. We shouldn't have it in Long Beach and this and that. And like I said before, so I feel you have a great reputation and a great school here. I wish you could have a role in everything.
Thank you again, Mr. Weaver. It was great comment, and we appreciate the time. Okay, we we have Ms. Jackie Odom. Jackie, are you here? Yes. Welcome, Ms. Odom. Good to see you. I know it's late, and we're so glad you stayed with us.
Jackie Odom, President of Concerned Citizens in the Norfolk area. Good evening. I'm speaking here today on the comprehensive plan and gentrification in the Norfolk area. I would like to say to Patty Boyd and her committee, she's working hard on the comprehensive plan. But in the plan, gentrification is real for the residents in the Norfolk area. The residents are afraid of being displaced and have no trust in the system. Why? History tells us so. I have, in the past history, news article driving out the poor. To honor and respect to our leader, Reverend J.P. It is Friday, putting the blacks behind the wall. Out a dream, Isabel Torres. City displacing thousands of leads gaining influence. In 1972, there was a news article, Long Beach officials relocating the mental ill. 1975, First National Affairs, over 600 buildings was burned. 1976, the city officials began writing the direction of the master plan. 1977, the state holds hearings on problems of adult homes and displacement. 1978, the city began programs to fix up apartments, pushing for casino gambling. 1979, the Long Beach project to deal with mental ills and to put them out of adult homes. 1980s, the city seeks further funds for a plan for Long Beach First Shopping Center. 1983, the first new condos that was built in Long Beach. 1984, developments of Matthew Russo and Michael Laser buying the former Promenade Place for the city's greatest hotel. In 1985, a Valerie units was built, misplacing the people out of their homes. 1986, zoning board in apparently retrenchment, turning down several major proposals. 1987, and another significant reverse of the city's back, of tenant groups fighting for eviction from a middle-class bill proposed for demolition for condos development. There is no trust. Help us, make us believers that we will be written into the comprehensive planning and have a representative on the zoning board. Thank you. I know we have been in the dialogue with Patty Boyd and her committee on the comprehensive planning, and I would just like to know when we can get that follow-up on that next meeting for that comprehensive plan dialogue.
Board will stay after the meeting, maybe we can answer that question for you. But again, we welcome everyone and welcome you, Ms. Jackie Odom. I have Mr. John Bendo, that's nice. Mr. Bendo.
Hello again, John Bendo. This is my scope of what I was going to talk about. Expanded a lot since this all started. Just regarding the comprehensive plan and the zoning updates, I'd just like to point out all the great zoning updates in the world kind of pointless if the zoning board continues to have to get appointed and reappointed people who will give ridiculous and extraordinary variances, such as the behemoth on the super block that was approved. So, I would propose that there be some restrictions put on variances that can be made if there's zoning updates made to prevent things like this from happening again, because this is a pointless exercise if the zoning code is not going to be followed. Also, regarding the one potential solution could be is you could make this a referendum at the next election. Put the comprehensive plan on the ballot as a referendum and let the residents of the city decide. Regarding, I want to go back, I wasn't addressed this, but regarding the Army Corps of Engineers schedule, I participated on a call with the Army Corps of Engineers yesterday. As far as I know, there were no representatives from the city on that call, or at least none identified themselves. So it does make me wonder why we're paying former Public Works Commissioner Jim Locke to work on this. He's not even participating on the basic phone calls, the update phone calls. Maybe he has something else going on. I'm not saying, but I'm just pointing that out. But that being said, just for the benefit of the people sitting behind me, the work is starting on Edwards and Riverside both. The work should take 42 to 43 working days. It should be finished there by late May, then they're moving to Neptune and New York Avenue. Again, 42 to 43 working days. Neptune and New York Avenue will be the staging areas, so the rocks and the equipment will be stored there. That's a Reader's Digest version, just for the people behind me. Regarding the Pride Festival, in a previous life, I used to help organize major conferences and events in my industry, and being 11 weeks out and not being able to answer some fundamental questions kind of implies either this thing is kind of in chaos right now, or, and I grant you may not have the details yet, it's still far enough out, I understand that, but then I would, there's all kinds of questions. Are they going to be pop-up tents on the beach like there was for the surfing contests? Will they serve alcohol or food on the beach? Just in point, I would request next council meeting, please come with some information for us so we can make educated decisions about how we can do it. You can also address in those comments at the next meeting, what's the city's policy on Airbnb rentals? Because I'm guessing that's going to be a major issue that week. So, thank you.
No, thank you. Next, we have Allison Blanchett.
I received an email from Jack Schnirman today about a Point Lookout bus service reduction meeting that's being held on Thursday. I heard about this and sent you all an email inquiring. Turns out that as of April 1st, it looks like we will have no more Point Lookout or Lido bus on Saturdays. It doesn't say anything about Sundays. It looks like there's a drastic change in the schedule. I wonder when you're going to make this information public. It seems there's a public comment meeting with transit staff. I don't know who transit staff is, but on Thursday at 4 p.m. So is the decision to cut the Point Lookout and Lido bus, is that like something that the city council is voting on? So will the city council be there on Thursday at 4, or is this city manager decision? I'll wait for that answer. As far as going back to the comprehensive planning meetings, I have repeatedly requested, other residents have repeatedly requested, another meeting where we can actually have a conversation about transportation issues. We had 0 conversations unless you brought them up in your breakout meetings in the last one, and that was the last time anything about bicycles and pedestrians was really put into the comprehensive plan. And there were a lot of issues with what was put in there. So So can we have a meeting just for transportation issues? I'd like to think that after 20 whatever meetings that you had about plans, it's not just big developments that may or may not happen. These are like real everyday things. And what was mentioned for bicycles and pedestrians and buses was just in the downtown area. It just completely disregarded everything north of the park. Completely. The plan didn't even touch the schools, didn't talk about senior housing, public housing, didn't even address the bridges coming, the 3 entry exit points into Long Beach. It just addressed a one-way in 2 small sections. So that's not really, the title of the document is comprehensive and that's not comprehensive, so we get a reading on that. And then Park Avenue, echoing what Mary said, it's great that that sign got put up, but one sign I'm not celebrating. I will celebrate when you put no rights on red the entire length of Park Avenue, as I've been asking for a very long time. I haven't seen anything else come up at that intersection where that pedestrian fatality, the completely preventable, unnecessary death that happened. Anything else going up there? Can we get some painted crosswalks? Can we shorten, are we going to wait for these big projects to happen? Can we put some temporary quick fixes on the streets? The Park Avenue grants, all these phases and stuff, none of that even touches down in that area. What's going on with that? And I think that's it. I'd like to hear about the first questions I have. It would be really great. What's going on with the bus? Are you going to announce this to everyone? Are you guys voting on this? What is that process?
I'd be happy to address all 3 issues that you raised. Firstly, regarding the transportation by way of background, as you well know, the City of Long Beach has been subsidizing what is essentially a county route, probably for as long as anyone to know. The city has requested repeatedly that the county pay its fair share, so to speak, where it's a Lido Point lookout route. The City of Long Beach runs that route. So the city residents are subsidizing something that is there to serve Lido Point lookout, which is a wonderful service that we provide. However, we provide that at a substantial loss, as you may well know. We've repeatedly requested that the county rectify this. They have not. As you pointed out very well regarding the other route, the N33, and the council is very concerned about, and has requested some advocacy and doing some advocacy on that. It's the same issue, right? Whether it's regarding the N33 going to the A train, or whether it's the lookout route. The challenge here is our residents are not subsidizing it, and we have clearly communicated over a period of time to the county that we can no longer do that. And so that's a real challenge for us. So to answer the logistics of your question, what the FDA regulations, as I understand them, provide that we are looking to potentially make a change, which to directly answer your question does not become a vote of the City Council. The proper process is that the Transportation Department do whatever it is that they are doing. I have front of me here on Thursday, March 23rd at 4 p.m. Regarding the Lido Point Lookout Run, which would lower the amount of service on that run, which obviously is unfortunate. I'm sure you would agree with us. We would prefer the alternative is for the city to completely drop that run. And if they would do that, the county is by right supposed to pick that up. I don't know if they would, but they're supposed to, right? So that is what is proposed to it. Ask in your email if there was a proposed fare increase. There is not, to be clear. So that's what's going on. After that hearing, there will be a recommendation made from the department about what action the city should take going forward. So that was the first issue that you raised. The second issue you raised regarding the comprehensive plan, specifically bicycle mobility and walkability are covered in section 5.5, pages 5 through 11. I'm guessing you've read these though. After passing the complete streets legislation, the city has made a priority focus on the equality, safety, pedestrians, and all modes of transit. Comprehensive plan recommends creating a comprehensive bicycle network of showers and bicycle lanes, including directional signage and bicycle safety classes. My understanding is you are aware that there is to be additional planning regarding these items in the near future. So while this is meant to be, I'm going to just finish what I'm saying, and I think we'll probably cover it. While this is a comprehensive plan, I don't think it's fair to argue that it is an exhaustive plan. And so, as I believe Patty had mentioned to you, our recommended next steps are some additional breakouts on exactly this. And yes, that would include public participation in that. Why would it not, right? And finally, I mentioned the issue regarding the no rights to rent. Just regard, and you're right to cite the upcoming projects that are coming down the pipe, and those are correct. We discussed them at length earlier in the meeting. But I would also mention the city has been pursuing, as you well know, participated actually, additional crosswalks throughout the city, and we've allotted a portion of the capital budget to the federal request of 20. I recall it's something about $20,000 a year. Just if memory serves, I could be wrong on that. But that is something that's moving forward regardless, even while we make those major projects take place.
Make a recommendation that if you're going to do something like a bus pass, I really want to take this notice because if you say the word advocacy, it will let the public help you, give us a chance to help you try to find it.
Thank you, and I think we intended that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchett, for those comments. Mr. Ronnie Miles, you're still here. And welcome, Mr. Miles. Good to see you.
Ronnie Miles. I have one or two discussions. Well, we went through the comprehensive plan. I know just so to be stated for the record, I know it's cumbersome for you to keep hearing it, but we're not going to stop talking about it. Because basically, when you raise the values of property and you raise the level of living and all these things change. Not because of the eminent domain. We're not incapacitated in our thinking. We keep reiterating because it is a real issue for this community. And history serves us well. We always remember the past, so we're not going to repeat the steps. But I do want to pay attention for being in support of the community. So thank you for that. In that situation. I also want to go back to some things that we talked about flooding. I want to set the record straight on flooding. This constitution of the council may not have had to deal with the flooding issue, but I do recall Mr. Torres, Fred Ailson, and Scott Mandel having to be a part of those talks years and years ago, and it has been ongoing, and they could have definitely brought flooding issue, because you still have sitting people on the council who are part of that overall discussion, and it still has not been addressed. Now, I understand that there's something more with Mr. Reynolds, and I'm going to leave that to again, speed along. It's another 8 years later, and we're still waiting. The issue of Mr. Schnirman, I want to get some clarity on your current position. I understand you support our community, but you are seeking to become controller in Nassau County, am I correct? And so with that being said, whoever comes in behind you may not be so supportive of the North Park community. So that also concerns us greatly. I attended a meeting in which several of the council members weren't there, and you weren't there to discuss some issues, and I'm ready for the follow-up on that meeting. So whenever you have a date, whenever your schedule's clear, we're ready to come visit you, okay? Other issues. When we talk about stop signs, stop lights, this, that, and the other. On Long Beach Road and Short Road, there's no stop sign for the people who are coming off the boardwalk. And we had a young boy hit, I don't know if you remember this, coming down on his bicycle, who was an L. For those who don't know, that's an English language learner, and English was not his first language. So to say he could read the signs was really asinine. But he got hit by a car, and we kind of need some signage there. We're getting ready to come back into another spring and summer season, and we're going to have to deal with the issues of that mysterious bike lane that we've not had addressed yet either. I understand that. I'm going to finish my comment. So I'm just going to need some clarity and some. Can somebody tell me something?
Thank you, Mr. Miles. What I can say is that the work that was begun years ago to obtain the money to correct the flooding in that part of Moore Park is only now being done. And although we've applied and lobbied for the money, it's taken a while for us to be able to get the money. And it's finally now happening. Unfortunately, it took a hurricane and a lot of damage to our community before that money was obtained. But you're absolutely right. It's something that's begun back then. And it's only now that's going to be realized, as Mr. Eramo was just saying, that the plans are finally now going to take place. And so we're going to see some changes come up. And I know that historically it's been a long wait. You're absolutely right.
I'm also going to suggest one final thing. I want everybody on this council to put their money where their mouth is and go ahead and draft one. Because we have any other zoning laws. How about that? We can do that, right? Yes? No? Yes, I heard a yes. I need 3 more, 2 more.
We have to hear first from corporate counsel. Can corporate counsel address that issue?
Oh, I know you're not.
We're doing the process of coordinating updates to the zoning code, which is very, very detailed and comprehensive. It's a lot to see.
We don't have to draft it from scratch. There are other cities who are doing it. We just start from New York City.
So, I want to address all the issues that you brought up. I'll start with that one first. I think you heard me read from the plan. Inclusionary zoning, something we've talked about all throughout the plan, right? You've been on the committee, you've played a terrific role in moving it forward. And so you know more than anyone that language is embedded in the plan because we had that conversation together, right? That would be the first thing. Regarding the flooding, I think that's been addressed already, chapter and verse. That's, just to be clear, that's not 8 years. That is in the time post Superstorm Sandy. We moved through a community block development grant.
That is 8 years. That's basically you were not here when we started this negotiation. The Torres and 9 years in the making.
The project that is specifically the critical infrastructure protection project that Councilman Eramo originally mentioned came alive after Sandy in that process. And so that has been every day that project hasn't been built, I think is a day that we all agree is too long, right? This has been decades in the making. But we're moving that project as fast as the state will allow us. And we will continue to keep up with you on that. Finally, regarding the bike lane and the boardwalk, you may recall from the end of last season that we were planning a pilot project this summer to replicate something that Beech did, and we look forward to that in the coming months. Hopefully that will work out.
Don't forget my south side, and don't forget my inclusionary zoning. Have a wonderful evening.
Our next person is Barbara. Sorry, ma'am. I just couldn't make out the lettering in there, and it's my fault. Welcome, ma'am. It's good to have you. Thank you for staying with us this late.
So for the record, it's Barbara Latitude.
Latitude.
And I'm a unit owner and on the board of managers at 650 Shore Road, Surtees. And I know there's been a couple of people who are trying to address the issue of the schedule with the Army Corps of Engineers. I know all the fencing went up in front of our buildings today. I went on the Army Corps' website, your website, and there was absolutely no information. My unit owners are saying, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I'll go to the city council meeting and maybe, is the Army Corps of Engineers going to be having a meeting to address this? Is there going to be a schedule? There's nothing on their website of what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. I would be alarmed too if something like that went up as well.
Yeah, the fencing just went up today.
You come to the right place.
The city actually did publicize that the fencing would be going up. It's what they call their hall road. It's not candidates, what we were arguing.
Was it on the city's website? I didn't see it.
Yes, it is on the city's website. But while we're on the subject, it's the subject that the city is arguing with the Army Corps of Engineers about the length and the amount of time that road, so to speak, should be on.
Right. So is there going to be some kind of schedule of exactly how long they're going to be in this staging there? I mean, someone had mentioned, John mentioned something about 42 working days. What does that mean? What are they doing? Are they just doing the jetties right now? Is that it?
We're going to take their schedule and we're going to follow it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again. Now, remember your last name. Last name. And we have Ronald McHenry. Ronald? Good to see you.
So like I said, I just want, I know everybody's against transportation, right? We're all against transportation and implement that does in different communities. But have we all read the comprehensive plan? We've all been through it, yeah? Because about a week and a half ago, we met with Patty, it was stated, some people were there, some people weren't. And the main concern of the community is affordable housing. And when we spoke about affordable housing, the plan had affordable housing, but that is not so much affordable for the community. And so why are we worried about this? Because we know if we build, the town taxes are going to go up. So I don't even know if all the residents are really concerned about this. Then we spoke about how Town Park is going to be protected and maybe Pine Street, but that still doesn't comprise for all the homeowners that also is part of the community, right? Plenty of guy needs, plenty of all kinds of people. So once the taxes go up, we're not sure if they have the income to pay for that. So we need units inside the comprehensive plan so that if they do get kicked out, because we are so pushing for this plan to go on, that they can move into the units. Now, so I was talking to Patty in the Axe Patty, and I think she's probably one of the hardest workers in City Hall, probably. And I asked her, what about affordability? She goes, it's not my job to create low-income housing. That's not my area. It's a different area for me. And so in my head, and I didn't say it out loud, but I'm like, wait a minute. Then why are we even here? Because we're here about talking about affordability. Because we've had like 15 meetings. And in 15 meetings, the concerns of the community is affordability. We want to be able to afford to live here when the taxes are raised. Well, because this is what gentrification is. Taxes go up, people get moved out. And so now we know that we were going to host, the MLK was supposed to be shut down. We know that you guys are for the MLK in the community. But you don't necessarily have to shut down the community. You just have to outprice them. They can't work here or, live here. And so it's like, what's going on? So I asked Patty, so Patty started saying that she talks to Albany and this needs to go on with Albany. And I'm like, all of New York is being gentrified. All of New York. It's not just Long Beach. So now we're taking a stand because we're the number one Democratic city in Long Beach, right? Long Beach is the number one Democratic city in New York. And so I would hate to see the government that we vote for trying to get rid of us because there is this master plan, quote unquote, somebody once said. And so we understand this administration is not about pushing this out, but so many other administrations have been. It's very hard to believe politicians, especially when they speak. So we're going to have to see if your actions will speak louder than your words. And I guess just lastly, I'm sorry. Just lastly, we need legislation that protects the people. We need it in writing. We need something that says that, you know what, that are from the community that are below market value, that people whose mom and dad works at Starbucks, they can afford to live there. That teachers who earn below 50, right, that work in the city, right, like Torres, we know where teachers start out in the city. Because they live in Long Beach, right? A lot of teachers work right there for Rockaway. All right, thank you so much.
Mr. President, I have to clarify for the record two items just to address Mr. Ronald. Two things. Number one, you had mentioned that taxes will go up as a result of this plan. I think that's a really important place to just take a moment and focus in on that. And that is exactly the opposite of the intention or what is written about in the plan. In fact, in the plan it states that the concept of adding tax base to the city, which means that all of us who pay taxes in the city, our taxes would not go up, right? Because there would be more taxes paid by either more people or more businesses or whatever constitutes the tax base. But we should not be afraid that our taxes would go up. That is something absolutely critical to understand as one of the bedrock things that is laid out in the plan. That the plan, there's a few different ways to say it. I'll say all of them so that we're all clear. That is often referred to as tax positive. Number one, it is often referred to as growing the tax base. Number two, so that it relieves the burden on all of us as residential tax payers. And so that's something that I would start, number one, to highlight. Number two...
Can I interject real quick before you go to number two? I said taxes because that's one of the things. There are many signs to gentrification. For instance, I've been told my life, I've never seen a private grade. I'm not against having rents, right? So not a problem. And so when you look at a place like Harlem, in particular, which has been gentrified, we don't know. So one group of people that were disenfranchised will move down, and then another group of people will move in, and it was the LGBT community. So I'm not saying that this is the purpose of it, but there's sort of a lot of different red flags out there. And so from the community looking on it, because we get lied to a lot, I know you're not saying that this particular project will raise taxes, but let's be honest, taxes are always raised in Long Beach. Taxes are always raised one way or another. And so, to the point where rent is so sky high that most of us are moving out already. So we hope that this project brings the rent cost down. But it's just the red flags of gentrification that continue, but we understand from your word now, you're against it. And like I said, your word, your actions will do more than what you say. And we hope that this issue of the comprehensive plan is resolved and voted on with the consent of the community and the community leaders soon. Because we want to see something that benefits the community of Long Beach. None of us against redevelopment. We all want our streets paved nice. We all want to live in a nice place called Long Beach. So none of us against a new project. We're against being pushed out.
Continue with my remarks. So, very specific to the issue of taxes, because that is absolutely critical, I think, to all of us, right? Taxes, I think your point is well taken, right? There's all these different reasons why taxes go up. But as I think folks who've heard me speak about our finances, for the better part of 6 years now, will remember, there are things that can take the burden off of our taxes, right? Either more businesses, more residents, more something and someone paying in to the taxes, because every dollar that somebody else pays is a dollar that you and I don't have to pay. So I hope that we can understand.
That's beautiful. And I hope these businesses reflect the whole community, because a lot of businesses in Long Beach, I was talking to a friend of mine, we don't even have a barbershop here because the rent and the taxes are just so high.
I know you heard me speak earlier about how the plan speaks to businesses along KJ Avenue Boulevard that I think we all understand used to be there, but are no longer. And finally, you had mentioned, I think, quite well, regarding the issue of renting, the issue of affordable housing, put it in writing. It is in writing. It's in the plan. I'll just remind you again. Section 4.7 mentions home items.
Specific to the issue of affordable housing that you mentioned earlier, regarding the definition of affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, which is what we're all talking about, is included in the plan. Number one, I'm going to finish my remarks. Number two, the issues that were brought up about how you define affordability is exactly the right issue to tackle. And in the plan, it speaks to the definition of affordability, because I think we can all agree that the traditional federal definition of affordability isn't necessarily affordable for all. So there are alternate definitions that are proposed and have been proposed through the process, partially as a result of the discussions and the dialogue that we have all had together. So I would just urge everybody to stick to the same set of facts. I understand the fear and the concern. And if we stick to the same set of facts, I think you'll see that embedded in the plan, at the community's request and at the council's urging, are the very concepts and the very protections in writing that we've all discussed. Thank you.
So basically, we've also talked affordability. Patty's very much explained affordability. I know that he said something, so I'm going to say something. I don't have a moment, and my time was up before. So basically, I'm saying what Patty reiterated, and what is affordability? Is it 50 grand? We don't know. So I would like to see affordability on the level of each time
in the plan, and I think we would all agree that affordability.
All right, and I was at that meeting, and you were not. I wish you explained it then, and I would have to come up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McHenry.
I have one statement and two questions. My first statement, a couple hours ago, first moving up here, talked about crossing the street. I actually had to go to the city today. I'm 6'1", I have old legs, my wife was complaining I walk too fast. I couldn't get across the street. I was watching the countdown clock, so that's my comment about that. My two questions, you mentioned Anthony, about the bulkhead project and the works. Is there a time frame? Last year when it was talked about, they talked about the spring of 2017. We are in the spring of 2017. I spoke to the Works Commissioner a month or two ago, and he said it's a planning, and it's kind of takes longer than it's anticipated. Any idea what we're talking about when this might get started?
I don't know if we check the process. What I know was the lead because they changed when the bulkhead was going to be. They made us move closer towards the land, closer towards us, and not closer towards our houses. So I know that design change delayed, but we see.
I would say that I would expect that updated in the very near future. And I don't have a new timeline that has to be from me this evening, but I'm sure that there'll be something.
Okay, the other question was, I spoke with the public works commissioner also a couple months ago. The new flex valves that were put in on Kirkwood Street, they're useless. They don't do anything. And I spoke to them at the time. Apparently, you get garbage, you get something in there, and they have to be cleaned out. They said, well, we're going to work on something to have cleaned out on a regular basis. Nothing's happened. We had the nor'easter a couple of weeks ago, which is my biggest nightmare, having a nor'easter. Full moon, 2 days after the full moon. My car's down the block. My block was flooded maybe about 250 feet, 300 feet down the block. The water was up to the house. Like about 8 feet up in the air, so that's okay. Something needs to be done with this flex valve. I mentioned to him also about the drain itself. The drain is, you have the grate and then it's very open on the side. If there's something blocking that, you would have the garbage going in there, you would have the garbage blocked on the flex valve. He said, yeah, look into it. But meanwhile, the street keeps getting flooded. So there's two issues that need to be addressed, and obviously, with everything else going on at the time. We can look at that too, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Dua, thank you again. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's been a long meeting, but a very productive one. Thank you again, folks, and get home safe.